Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. How important is it to push the boundaries of your knowledge of the Christian faith? I'm glad you're joining us on the show again today. At Wesley Mission, we do all we can to share God's love in relevant and meaningful ways. To some people, that means spending time and chatting over a cup of tea, and to others, it requires exploring some of the deeper truths of the Bible and of faith. Today, I'm going to be speaking to someone who spent his life doing just that. Professor Rikk Watts has taught theology throughout Australia, and prior to that he spent 20 years in various academic roles at Regent College in Canada and has held positions at Wycliffe Hall, La Trobe University and the Bible College of Victoria after studying theology at Boston, at Cambridge. Gosh, I'm out of breath with all those different places. And it's fair to say that Rikk has made a career unpacking some of the deeper truths of the Bible, and I'm looking forward to talking to him a little later on. We'll be joined by Gower and the Wesley Impact Band to sing Coming Home. And after the forthcoming programmes, I'll be sharing some thoughts on important Christian words. Today, I'll be focusing on that word hope. It seems an important word in these challenging times. It's my desire that these words will bring some hope to you. But first, the doors of Wesley Mission are always open to you, and we want to enable you to find that message of hope and the offer of meaningful help wherever we can. Kerry is one lady who came into contact with us after a number of life events and circumstances beyond her control saw her living as a homeless mother, raising children without a permanent home over their heads. And I'm pleased to say that her life has turned around, and today she and her children have a place to call home, but it didn't come without its challenges. Let's take a look at Kerry's story together.
My name's Kerry and I'm 57 and I've lived here for about 5 weeks now. I had my own apartment. I was married, sold my apartment, we built a house. The marriage went bad, he was very abusive, he was very domineering. And I ended up leaving that place, and I went to live in a garage with my 2 kids at my ex-mother-in-law's place. I was homeless for a year, so I was going from place to place and sleeping on couches, sometimes beds. I did go to Centrelink and they told me to go to Link to Home. There was no refuges available. You'd have to ring back every day. I was very devastated and I just couldn't believe how I ended up in that position. I worked at quarantine as a baggage inspector, so I hurt myself there. They didn't care. I was bullied. I tried to stay on the job while I was injured, and I think matters were made worse, and my health deteriorated and my mental health deteriorated, and I just crashed after that. And I haven't worked since then. I was placed on NDIS and then through that I had contact with Wesley Mission. If I didn't have Wesley Mission, I don't know where I would have been now, today. I cannot thank Wesley Mission enough. It was Wesley Mission that picked me up and held me by my hand and got me through this. And if it wasn't them, I don't know where I'd be.
If you would like to learn more about Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can find help in our community services, connect with our church and congregations, discover a volunteer role that suits you, stay up to date on the latest news and information, donate to support our work, and help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and subscribe to receive the latest news and information about Wesley Mission directly into your inbox. Visit wesleymission.org.au.
Don't hesitate to be in touch if we can help you or a loved one. The contact details are on the screen once again, and we're all too willing to help wherever we can. I mentioned earlier that my guest today is Rikk Watts. It's good to have you, Rikk, on the programme. Rikk is well known in the realm of Christian theology in Australia, but has a long career prior to that, unpicking some of the deeper truths of the Bible, but there's much more to the story. Welcome, Rikk. Nice to have you.
Lovely to be here.
Let's start at the beginning. You were a drummer. Let's really start with the important things. You're trained as an aeronautical engineer and you used to work at IBM. So how does somebody with that kind of background end up doing theology?
Oh my goodness. Well, how does one answer that? I think basically what happened was I enjoyed technology, but what drives technology and what it should be serving are people. And learning about people became much more of an interest to me, and that led to doing some studies in philosophy and art history, sociology. And through that, working with a crisis accommodation group, John Smith, the God Squad, remember them? Yep. In that role, I realised I probably needed to know what I was talking about. It would help. And then that led to study for the first time in biblical studies, theology at Gordon Conwell in Boston, and then Cambridge after.
I like the link you've made between a different kind of academic world into theology. You were at Boston, you were at Cambridge, and you did, I think, philosophy, history and theology. Are they all connected in the way you think?
Well, this is a really interesting question, and I think some of the problems we face as Christians today go back to the world in which the gospel first began to take root. So very quickly, in the Greek world, there were two ways of knowing. One was through abstract rational ideas. They will call that philosophy. Theology is a part of that. So it's the rational science of the divine. And it's all about speculation and what makes sense. That's not what you see in the scriptures. The scriptures are much more concerned about experience and history. So if you want to know who Yahweh is, and if you want to know who Jesus is, you get four gospels, their history, they're encountering the person of Jesus. So for me, thinking as a Christian requires you really to think more historically in one sense rather than abstract philosophical terms, if that makes any sense to you.
Now, you were at Regent College in Canada.
That's right, yeah.
For 20 years, were you there?
Yep.
And how important was that time for you?
Oh, my goodness, it's really shaped me in profound ways. A couple of things stood out. Initially, it was a school for lay people. So it has brethren roots. And if you know the brethren, they're a little suspicious of what they would call professional ministry. Because of those lay roots, the people it was serving were folks who were either doctors or lawyers or housewives, engineers, who were coming out of a very practical and engaged world.
Again, that connection's there in your
There
mind.
it is again, right? And the idea is the gospel really is meant to impact the world. So part of the danger is we can see the gospel as something that takes us out of the world, in which case I think we'll always have a bit of an issue as to how we relate to this world, if it's all going to burn up. Whereas if it's actually about changing this world, then there's a deeper level of integration. And I think that's what I got from Regent.
And you've worked across many educational institutions and as an instructor and mentor to many. What do you try to impart to your students?
Well, this, at the risk of sounding terribly pious, at the core of what we believe is the person Jesus. And it's so easy for him to become a set of ideas or an icon for something else. So what I keep telling them is that they need to come to know him as a person. Right? That's absolutely central to everything.
Central to what we believe and how we understand life.
And who we are.
Yeah.
It's all relational, right?
So it's not just a knowledge of the Bible, but the way that the Bible and faith and Jesus interacts with you.
Yeah. Well, I think the striking thing about the God of Israel and the Jesus who we meet is Yahweh's not a human being, clearly not, but a person. And the only way you know persons is through their story. I think that's why the Bible has lots of narrative in it, right? I learn about you by asking you about your past, what you like, right? The Gospels are doing that. So when they're telling the story of Jesus, this is not a way for common people to get to know God that we can learn about in a more sophisticated way. No, truth is ultimately personal. So it is primarily about relationship.
Truth interrogates you, doesn't it, in a way, about who you are and what you are.
But it's the person who's speaking the truth. So it's not just I'm hearing some word coming out of the vacuum of space. I'm looking to the face of this first century Jewish person who asked me a question in a context. Right? So it's deeply historical, deeply personal, and it's this relational dynamic that can easily get lost.
And he still thrills you and challenges you.
He's extraordinary. No one like him. Really, I'm obsessed.
Yes, and that's fine as long as it then spells itself out in the specifics, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, and do stay with us for a while because I'm actually going to talk a little bit more with Rikk later in the show, and I'm looking forward to doing that and talking again. Welcome now, Craig Gower and the band to sing "Coming Home."
So patient, and I could run back home. Oh God, you come running, for your love never changes. Lord, you're so gracious. With a kiss, with a ring and a robe, you have found me. You have found me. With a ring and a robe, you have found me. You have found me. I could let you down over and over, but your love never changes. Lord, you're so patient. And if I run back home, God, you come running, for your love never changes. My Lord, you're so gracious. With a kiss, with a ring and a robe, you have found me. Oh, you have found me. With a kiss, with a ring and a robe, oh, you have found me. You have found me. With a kiss, with a ring and a robe, you have found me. You have found me. With a kiss, with a ring and a robe, you have found me. You have found me. And it feels like coming home for the first time in a long time. Feels like coming home. It feels like coming home for the first time in a long time. Feels like coming home. It feels like coming home for the first time in a long time. Feels like coming home. And it feels like coming home for the first time in a long time. Feels like coming home.
Experience the Galilee and the towns and cities where Jesus was raised and called his home. Capernaum, Nazareth, Tabgha, Magdala, Caesarea Philippi, Bethsaida, Tiberias, and of course the Sea of Galilee all feature in this 6-part series as Keith Garner explains the first century context of biblical events.
Jesus was born during a time of change in the political and economic leadership of this region. Fishermen around a lakeside was really one of the big businesses. Why Jesus? Why didn't people ignore him? Why did they take him seriously? And what are the questions we should be asking today if we're going to take Jesus seriously?
The Man of Galilee is available now and comes with a study guide for leaders, small groups and individuals. For more, visit wesleymission.org.au.
I'm beginning a series where I'm taking familiar Christian words and just reflecting upon them. And today I just want to nurture that word hope in your thinking for a moment or two. It's a profoundly Christian concept, and I want to read from 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 to 9. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he's given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. The inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. In all this, you greatly rejoice. For now, for a little while, you may have to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come to you so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of this greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you've not seen him, you love him. Even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and you're filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Only occasionally, prior to the epistles, do we really see the amount that there is about hope. Hope is such a central part of our scriptures, but particularly when we reach the part of the New Testament that follows the Gospels, built on those bases. The general hope in God is then translated into something far more. It is a hope specifically focused in the person of Jesus Christ. It's based on the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Because God has raised Christ to new life, so it becomes an important theme. And it's a theme that at Advent and Easter is so important. You can't really celebrate the coming of Christ or celebrate the risen Lord without thinking of hope. And hope is caught up with the thought of expectancy. It's not just about something hoped for, but it's the act of hoping. And what does that mean to you? Hoping for something looks forward. We sing, don't we? My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. We read in Romans, be joyful in hope. In the 12th chapter, 15th chapter speaks again, may the God of hope fill you. So hope is not just something that's abstract. It's something that impacts our lives and fills us with purpose, fills us with confidence, and gives us something that we can look forward with and to and by. Francis Bacon was an accomplished academic, and he once wrote this, very much different than many of the things he wrote. Hope is a good breakfast, but it's a poor supper. And I like that, the idea that it's there at the beginning of thinking and then makes sense of so many things that happen rather than just the gift of retrospect, which is how some people think of life. We sense huge numbers of people today at Wesley Mission who feel hopelessness, who for all kinds of reasons have lost their way. And in COVID-19, it's certainly a very real challenge, this business of hope. Hope that is very much in the dreams that Christians have, in vision, and makes great people. The greatest people of all are the people of hope. The people who are living with that sense of the hope that they found in Jesus Christ, who's transformed them, changed them, made them new and different. And because that has happened, they'll never be the same. And that hope will help to change them even further. It's a part of our message. It's part of the practicality of our message. We talk about word and deed at Wesley Mission, and we believe those two are intricately bound in the gospel as being seen in the ministry of Jesus. Fyodor Dostoevsky was the most famous, perhaps Russian novelist with a strong Christian conviction. He wrote, "Totally without hope, one cannot live. To live without hope is to cease to live." Now, I'm looking forward in a moment or two of just having a few more words with my guests today, and I'm thinking about hope and how hope can make a difference to life. And how about you? Have you thought about hope afresh at this time of the year? Have you thought about hope in the present circumstances that are times of challenge, and how Jesus himself is a living hope and how he can make a difference to the way you live?
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send us an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on social media. You can also connect through Keith's blog and stay up to date on all the latest news and information from Wesley Mission, wesleymission.org.au.
Thank you for joining us and making this part of your day. And my guest in the studio is Professor Rikk Watts. Rikk is somebody who has worked in the area of Christian thinking for some time. But you made a link, didn't you, when we were talking, between your past world and the present world. What essentially was that link?
Well, I trained as an engineer, and I realised behind engineering are human beings. Human beings create engineering, or they do it for the sake of other people. So that led to the question of what it meant to be human, and I think that's where the Christian answer most fully gives us a sense of who we are. And you mentioned hope, meaning, purpose, things like that. So.
Yeah, somebody's overhearing our conversation today, and they're saying, how is it and why is it that the Christian gospel should have some impact upon me? How would you unpack that as a Christian academic?
Well, the first thing I say is you can't live in the modern world without having a basically Christian worldview. I've taught in a very large Asian country.
Tell me why. I don't understand
I'm going
that.
to tell you right
Tell
now.
me.
So I taught many years in a very large Asian country, who shall remain nameless, at some of the universities. And we were there because they recognised that the West wouldn't become the West without what they called our religion. So I would teach on this, and at the end of the week, I'd say to these students, all right, now you know your past, and you know a particular dynasty, and you know your modern country. You've heard about the worldview the Bible has. Tell me now, which does your modern country most resemble? That old dynasty or the biblical worldview? And the stunned responses when they realised change is a good thing, it could actually happen. That the way you learn about the world is actually through the senses and testing, that cities are dynamic and change, right? Everybody has equal value regardless of their gender, their social status, ethnicity, that love and compassion really matter, the body's not the enemy. Those key ideas are all uniquely Christian.
Many people would say, really, that the Christian community is very much against change, wouldn't they? And that's a terrible thing to say in the light of what you've just said.
It's a terrible misunderstanding. Yeah, absolutely. So you'll notice how Genesis begins. It doesn't begin with a perfect creation. That is an astonishing turning point. It says creation is good. If the world's perfect, it can't change, and you can't do anything to change it. Who want to live in that world? That's a prison. But by making the world good, it gives room for human agency. We can do things. So Paul is the first person in antiquity to talk about transformation as a path to hope, which is what you were speaking about.
Yeah, sure. And for you, the person of Jesus Christ is central to all this thinking.
Absolutely.
And do you think we've lost our way in some Christian thinking about that?
I think we have. I think because human beings crave certainty, we've been seduced into thinking that if we have a nice rational model, things will work. But, you know, I'm married. If you've been in a marriage, you know that it's not rational in that sense. It's much more relational. And that's what the biblical narrative gives us. It gives us ways to actually develop a relationship. So if we lose that, it's possible to actually go to a seminary and come out knowing all kinds of theology, but not really know the person of Jesus. And I don't mean that in a trite way. I mean in a really deep way of engaging with him.
Yeah. And did you find in your teaching career that you discovered and rediscovered this time and time again?
Oh, yes. One of my favourite classes is Introduction to the New Testament. And I tell my students I love to teach this because it reminds me of what I believe and why I believe it. And it's a wonderful thing to do, is to focus back on him.
And sometimes God says, don't forget why and what it is that you're about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
great.
look, thanks for sharing with us. What do you see the greatest challenge of, just in a sentence, the greatest challenge of our Christian mission today is?
I think regaining confidence in Scripture, and by that I mean really understanding what Scripture has to say. I think it's become too narrow, and I think people are not quite sure they can trust it anymore. And I want to say you really can. It's an astonishing collection.
Well, this
of
isn't like
documents.
learning by rote. This is something that's much more profound and deep than that.
Changing the way you think about the world. It's very powerful.
Rikk, thanks for having this
Pleasure.
conversation. It's been good today to talk together. Do be in touch if we can help you in any way, or a loved one. Don't forget, you can be in touch with questions about the Christian faith or something you've heard on the programme. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week as we'll continue looking at words that mean a great deal to the Christian community and unpacking them and exploring them and saying, what does this say to us today? And it's always great to hear from people. So whatever the week holds for you, I pray it's a helpful one. God bless you. Same time next week.
Wesley Mission walks alongside people of all ages struggling with homelessness, addictions, mental health issues and financial stress. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.